2017-18, and in presenting this report for 2017-18 to Cabinet, this proposes a number of savings to help ensure a balanced budget is achieved. Section 3 sets out the current draft budget position, which has been prepared on the 4-year financial settlement that was announced in February this year. Although the autumn statement is due to be announced on the 23rd of November, we are not expecting our core grant funding to change from that already announced. The table at section 3.13 sets out the forecast deficit for 2017-18 of just under 1.2 million, after no changes and savings have been taken into account. Section 3.14 then proposes further savings for approval, some of which do not have employee implications. These savings reduce the deficit to 491,000. Further savings or additional income will need to be identified to ensure a balanced and sustainable budget is set for 2017-18. No increase in fees or charges or council tax have been included in the draft budget as yet. Further work is also required to understand the impact of the business rates revaluation that will come into effect in April 2017. The Cabinet will be further updated on this as more information becomes available. The recommendations are shown at section 2 of the report. And could I say in presenting the report that we have in fact gone much further in terms of the budget in advance than probably in previous years, and intend to continue this right up until the final budget setting to be able to put forward as many of these savings, because of course as we can, because the amount to be saved is very large, and on top of previous savings is obviously far more difficult. So we intend to look at several cabinets at what further can be taken off to get us to a balanced budget. Right, so I've got 3 speakers on this. So the first is Councillor Fundell.
Thank you, Chair. First, the good news. I'm glad you're linking the CCTV cameras up with Wi-Fi. The BT line rentals were extortionate, and it's good to get rid of those. It mentions the Mayor's car, cutting the £4,000 release cost. The actual big cost is the hiring the drivers. We need to look at the Mayor's car and be far more sensible about how we use it. But the really big thing I want to talk about is the town centre. Because if you look at the spending pressures at the back, £200,000 down on car parking from our budget. We are destroying our town centres by putting people off driving to them, and we aren't raising any more money. What we're doing is we've hiked the prices by £200,000. We're going to have a £200,000 reduction because less people are visiting the town. We're also losing £40,000 from the market because less people are visiting the towns. We're having issues with the business rates because less people are visiting town. We are destroying our borough because we do not do sensible business management. The other area we've totally fouled upon is the movement for the depot. £600,000 the depot move is supposed to cost. It's going to cost £2 million at least. None of that is in this paperwork. This council is not managing resources well. It is not doing a proper business case before it does things. Example, car parking. If you did a proper business case, you'd have worked out less people would come and you'd lose all the money you were going to gain. Depot move. If you'd done a proper business case, you would have worked out how much it was going to cost and actually have a flight a year ago and actually do some changes, rather than doing it as a last minute panic. This council is appallingly managed and it needs to change. We need to urgently cut the car parking, at least at 1 or 2 of the surface car parks, so some of our traders keep in business over the winter. Traders have reported a 30% drop in footfall since the parking charges have gone up. They will not survive another year, some of the small traders, on the poor pickings we get in this town now after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I understand car parks like the Rope Walk are a cash cow, and you may not be able to reduce the price of the Rope Walk, but somewhere like the Co-op car park, we can have 2 hours parking for £1 rather than 1, not actually lose much income, because actually we get more people taking up the opportunity and help our businesses. We need to help our businesses in our town, and if things don't change, we need to do something urgent to change this council. We cannot go on with this incompetence. We cannot go on with £2 million being spent on a depot move that's supposed to cost 600,000. We cannot go on with a continuous rise in parking charges that is destroying the businesses that employ people. Yeah, we are destroying our economy, and at the same time, Hinckley's thriving. It is doing proper stuff with business plans, talking to businesses, and doing it in a competent way.
Thank you, Councillor Prendergast. Are there any questions to Councillor Prendergast? Thank you very much. Mrs. Prendergast.
Thank you. Well, I went through this and I was looking at some of the savings areas are of concern, and my concern is also that there is no debate with the public over these things. I see you've got delete vacant civil enforcement officer. Now, when I've raised questions about litter enforcement and what have you and things, one of the things that kept coming back to me was that you need two people in order for it to be done. You know, they can't just have one officer go out on their own. So I'm concerned whether, you know, all right, it might save 28,000, but if it actually leads that you can't enforce half the things, that's a sort of a false economy. Reduced lease costs for the civic car, Keith already mentioned that. I don't understand why we have such a posh civic car. We've got the smallest borough around. From this town hall, I don't think it's more than 6 miles to any part of the borough, with the possible exception of Kersley and things. Mayor should be using own car. You use acronyms with no explanation. I have no idea what review RCC owes to reflect recent investment in vehicles is, so I couldn't even find that in the thing, so I don't know what that's about. The other things were on the spend pressures. Again, Keith already mentioned car parks, and we did speak about that here at Cabinet before you agreed to the rise, and it is very, very sad to see town. And I know you keep saying, oh, we mustn't run down the town and things. We're trying to not run down the town. We want it to be thriving. I still do come in and do all my shopping here in the Neaton and things, but it is getting increasingly difficult to find some of the things. My parents visited. My dad had forgotten to bring any slippers. Friday afternoon, oh, where can we pick up a pair of slippers? I struggled to even think where we could find some. We fortunately did, but it is not, you know, it's important. People are just going elsewhere. And the reduced income from markets is also a big concern. We did have an award-winning market in 2008, I think it was, or 2009. It would not win any awards now, and it's very sad to see. You need to be encouraging those. Sometimes you have to actually spend money to save money and vice versa and things, but it's just not happening. And then there are other big things where there could be savings. The climbing wall has been a total and utter fiasco and things. You need to decide that that was a mistake and sell it on, or even give it to someone else to run. That would save an awful lot of staffing costs and things. The problems at Ocean Road Cemetery, why was it not even thought that, oh yes, that would make a good extension to the cemetery, right by the cemetery and things. 15,000 or more was spent on planning applications and the like and things. Ridiculous things. Keith already mentioned the depot. Bedworth Civic Hall is costing us an arm and a leg. We do want to still have the Civic Hall, but these are places where you need to be looking to save money.
Thank you, Mrs. Condacora. Are there any questions? Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Jane. Apologies for being late. That's an hour and 45 minutes on the way here. I've come to speak about two main areas of concern from my point of view and the point of view of my group, which are the car parking problems and the market problems. And I hate to sit here and say, I told you so, but I sat here when you looked at putting up the car parking charges and warned you that there were problems coming if you did this policy which you insisted on pursuing through with no scrutiny. And lo and behold, we are sat here looking at a £200,000 shortfall. The market traders, and I listen to them on my way to work in the morning, They themselves have said they are feeling the pinch and seeing the difference it is making with the car parking charges. We heard experts from local businesses at the time who warned and cautioned you, not just the political aspect, but from those on the front line who warned you and said, please don't do this. And this is the result we are facing. The markets are also a very important source. They are part of the lifeblood of our town centres. And I remember about a month ago I brought a colleague of mine when I was working out of Nuneaton, and she used to live in Nuneaton. We thought, oh, we'll go for a spot of lunch in Nuneaton. It'd be a nice little break away from the office screens, as you do. And she could not believe the state that it had deteriorated to. She could not believe the amount of vacant premises and the reduction in the stall holders. It was noticeable to someone who hasn't been here for such a long time, who was just visiting and wanted to see what things look like again. And residents are noticing the effects. It's been noticed on social media, it's been noticed in the papers, and yet again, this authority's answer is to ramp up charges, both on car parking and again with market rates. And unless you start to look at different alternative ways of reforming how we charge, this is going to be a simpler thing to come. There was an offer on the table from the Managing Director of Roadwalk. He said if you want to look at increasing income, he was more than willing to do so and look at various other ways of reflecting the charging structure. And I would ask you, I would implore you to see if that offer is still on the table and actually take him up on it and see what can be done, because it is not sustainable, the amount of losses which are coming from car parking charges. For the sake of our town centres and from what residents are telling me, I am saying to you as a cabinet, please look at this policy again. Go out there and seek the advice of professionals who actually know what they're doing in this regard, and take that advice and put it into action. Because otherwise our town centres will continue to deteriorate.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I just have a simple question. Do you know when was the last time we put up council rent?
Yes, you put them up in the last budget, you put them up by 3%.
No, we didn't.
Yes, you did. They were not excluded from your increase in 3% in the rates.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I just want to come back to the report in front of us, which is about how we have to find £1.2 million due to the massive cuts yet again imposed on us by the Conservative government. Voted for by all three MPs, yet again slashing the budget of this council after similar slashes last year. I very much doubt that there is anybody in this country who can manage to keep services going with slashing budgets. We have lost over 50% of our government income. 50%. And we are looking at ways of doing it with doing as very little increase in the charges. We are doing it with as very little redundancies as we possibly can. And this has been a lot of work done by councillors and officers to look at what we can do to save vast amounts towards this £1.2 million that we are short of. The council will balance the budget. We always obey the law. We will balance the budget. But to find all this massive money and then be told, well, you can cut this, you can cut that, you can cut the other, and nobody's saying where the cuts will then be in the services. Because if you haven't got income coming in, then you have less money to be able to spend. Are we being asked, for instance, to turn off the CCTV, leaving everybody at risk? Because parking charges pay for the CCTV. Are we being asked to cut those out? It's been mentioned that we are talking about saving on enforcement officers. Well, of course, because we no longer charge for evening parking. So we don't need an enforcement officer in the evening. It's free. and therefore we've taken the opportunity to look at a vacant post and a changing of shifts to be able to make that saving. And the vast majority of these savings are savings that do not hit the public and they do not hit redundancy. Yes, we're into with some possible redundancies or staff savings, we hope, with voluntary redundancy. But in fact, we are getting to the point where things are becoming extremely difficult in trying to balance the budget of this council. We have lasted as long as we possibly can in saving the services and saving jobs. But at the end of the day, the budget has to balance, and for people to be critical when our MPs are busy voting for slashing of the budget by this amount is beyond my credibility. I'm proposing these savings that have so far been put forward to you. On that second note, do we have any other member? Councillor Ogington.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to point everyone to the table at 3.2. It's been thrown at us in the past that actually the money that we get isn't actually going down and we can afford things. Well, that table succinctly puts it there. It's going down from 4.95 million and then all the way down to 3.371 million. And the percentages are in there as well, the reductions. We can even see 43.2% cumulative reduction there. So actually I think that table is a very, very useful table. And you'll notice as well, 2019 to 20, our RSG or the Central Government Support Fund will be slashed completely and we'll have to rely on supposed business rates. So I just want to put that out there, Chair, because it's been thrown at us that actually you're not worse off. You can do better. That proves it, I think, Chair. And just one other thing, Chair, because the car parking has been raised, I sincerely hope, because I'm not on the County Council, but someone that is on the County Council raises the issues of subsidies for buses, because those have been slashed over the past few years, and the bus now, people don't just drive into the town centre, Chair, the bus now costs, I would like to think, over £4 for a return from Bedworth, which is less than 6 miles, we've been told. So actually, when you think about it, you can get 24 hours parking for that, Chair. So I just hope that is raised. Yeah, I just hope that is raised. That's the green alternative to driving your car in, isn't it?
I thought green policy had changed this afternoon as it was to drive your car in. Any other member?
Chair,
Councillor Jackson.
I do 3.14 actually refers to some of the savings, but they're not all cuts actually in provision. It's declared I am the director of NABSA, which is the Nuneaton and Bedworth Community Enterprise Limited. That company is actually projected to save, to make money of £100,000. That is a huge innovative project that the council has undertook, and I think proves that the council is doing everything it can in very, very difficult circumstances, not of our making, but actually circumstances brought about by a reduction in government grants. So I see Nuneaton and Bedworth actually being very innovative in trying to do everything it can to try and mitigate some of the factors that we unfortunately face as a reduction in support grants continues.
Councillor Lloyd?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Again, on the car parking, there seems to be a press for certain individuals in here on the car parking, especially our two Green councillor and candidates, etc. It's interesting that the Green candidate is promoting car use. And claims, that we're destroying the town centre, because it's his party that is loggerheads, because it's his party that actually promotes more buses and sustainable transport. And the answer to the other individual, we're not the smallest borough in Warwickshire. I believe we're the largest borough in Warwickshire.
We're the smallest in geographical size.
In geographical size, but not in population. So at the end of the day, you know, we have brought budget forward. Where, as Dennis has said, because there's such a large large cut that we've got to breach. We're doing it in bite sizes as we go to try and cause as less pain as we possibly can. But I'll say again, like Dennis said earlier, or Councillor Harvey said earlier, was that, you know, at the end of the day we just had a horrific stabbing down in Bedworth Park. And you know, at the end of the day, I don't know what part CCTV played in that. But if, you know, car park funding does disappear, or we do decrease it, and we end up losing even more car park funding, then I'm sorry, some things have got to go. I'll just hope to God it isn't CCTV, because that is a very costly thing that car parking pays for. I would not, for one, want to see that go. So if I've got to pay a little bit extra on my car, then I've got no problem with that.
Could I just point out to one of these savings areas, which in fact is not saving, it's increased rental income from commercial properties, and part of that has been because of the letting of some of our town centre properties, where the council has now got very few vacancies in either town centre. I think we've probably got one in Bedworth and one in Nuneaton. But we have managed to let our property, and some of our problem has been, and this is one of the things we're hoping to put money aside for perhaps shop jackets around some of the empty shops which belong to private concerns, is actually getting people who own these properties to respond and to actually do something. For instance, the council does not own the appalling property that is at the left-hand side of Coating Road just before you come to the island. An absolute disgrace. It is not the council's property. And one of our problems is dealing with some private owners who will not do anything to help us improve our town centre. So, many will, but there are some who will not respond to the council's letters, who will not respond to us in relation to putting up Christmas decorations on their property, so that it needs a partnership, and it needs people to respond when we're making offers. It's not a one-sided thing. So let's look at the increased income that's coming to the council as a result of the good work done by the Estates Department in letting our properties, which has been extremely good. And by the way, I have to say that Bedworth Market is probably the cheapest market in the country. I'm happy to see that if somebody can find a cheaper market, but I think it's probably the cheapest market to have a stall on in this country. So, Councillor,
Put your other glasses on.
yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm getting a bit wearisome of hearing this same song about the demise of our town centres being totally due to car parking charges. And very conveniently forgot that the recent studies about deprivation and people feeling the pinch on their disposable income is now coming home to roost. People do not have, and in this borough is quite low in pecking order about people with how much people have got to dispose. It's not like Stratford or anywhere else that people keep singing about. If they like Stratford that much, I think they should go and live there and take it with them. The issues are not solely about car parking. It is about how much money people have got in their pockets to spend. And when the shopkeepers look at this borough in those terms on what the situation is financially, that's why they don't come. They are not taking up the opportunities of the empty shops in this borough. As much as you'd like to try and encourage them, they do not do it. And therefore, the problem sits really with the private sector in the way it's going. And most of them now start to blame the internet. And we had examples in the co-op, did we not? where people were going in, checking out the sizes and TVs and everything else, and then go and buy them on the internet. No wonder the co-op said it went down the tube because of the internet. All these things are the factors that go into the demise of town centres. It's not just here, it's everywhere else. And I wave to the camera, because it's on me, but I hope it breaks your screen. But the issues are not solely down to car parking charges, it's down to a lot of other factors that people just cannot afford these things today. And to get off this subject and tackle the real issues, and the only people who can tackle the real issues probably are government, but we are stymied by these rules coming down from government and these issues and these policies that are coming out all the time. Just today, last night I saw it on the TV, people are going to become homeless because of the cuts in the benefits. And we've got to deal with that. We're the ones who have to pick up the pieces, not the government. So it's just a nasty, nasty vicious circle all the time. It's not just down to car parking charges, I can assure you. So get off that treadmill and let's have some sensible debates.
We've got the recommendations before us. Are we all agreed? Very much. If I can just add that I'm not in charge of BHS, as I was accused of being in one letter, neither in this town nor any other town where it closed across the country. Next item on the agenda is item 7, Capital Asset Strategy and Asset Management Action Plan. Councillor Pomfret.
First of all, can I thank officers involved in the preparation of this report. It seeks Cabinet's approval of a capital and asset strategy and asset management action plan for the coming 2 years, 2016 to 2018. As we know, the Council holds considerable assets of different types, including buildings, land, vehicles, plant and equipment. And Table 1 in the report on page 4 of the agenda shows the balance sheet carrying values, i.e. depreciated values, of these assets as of 1st of April this year. The total value of all the various types of assets we hold now is in excess of 228 million. The proposed capital and asset strategy and asset management action plan for the next 2 years sets a framework for how we will seek to manage our assets during this period, as well as identifying longer-term, larger project areas. Therefore, in some ways, it can be seen as bringing the various pieces of work we are undertaking together in one place. This will help to enhance the Council's ability to manage our assets in a more coherent, strategic manner, leading to better overall value for money. A draft version of the Capital and Asset Strategy and Asset Management Action Plan for the period 2016-18 was presented to and considered by the Economic and Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Panel at its meeting on the 22nd of September this year. The panel welcomed the document, noted its content and agreed to monitor the action plan on an annual basis from adoption. I recommend that the Capital and Asset Strategy and Asset Management Action Plan for the period 2016-2018 be approved.
Thank you. Councillor Condor.
Table 1 on page 40 is interesting. £228 million worth of assets. Probably about 80 million that aren't council housing. And we let some of those assets rot. Other assets have been up for sale for ages. And we keep getting told, don't worry if it's going fine. Well, the building behind you, what's happening with that? Before an election, oh, we've got loads of buyers. Nothing's happening. What's happening with the land in Vicarage Street? Nothing's happening. What's happening where we have got things happening? They're going wrong. The depot move, as I mentioned earlier. No business case for it. There doesn't seem to be a risk analysis done for it. I've looked at the audit committee minutes for next week. There are 5 projects being looked at by the internal audit. All 5 of them have got issues. And we look through what's going on, and this council isn't managing its assets well. We talked earlier about car parking, yes, but people said we've got problems with homelessness. But if you run your assets properly, you then have more money available to solve the real problems, which I agree are things like homelessness. but actually being inept in refurbishing the depot, letting those two shops rot at the top of Queen's Road, that sort of thing burns up money, which isn't then available for doing other stuff. We need to have proper project plans and proper business cases. The climbing wall was mentioned earlier. Well, that needs a vehicle to tow it. Where's that in the asset planning? What has happened is we're stealing the vehicle from the Parks Department. Vehicle replacement. The audit office said, the internal audit said, there's big issues about where the specification was defined for our vehicle replacement. Lots of money going into vehicle replacement. We need to get these things right. And if you look at the back of the thing, there's a lovely table of all the different projects we're involved in on page 47 onwards. And almost all of them are going wrong. Top of the table, disposal of council house. Relocation of St Mary's Depot going wrong. Yeah, all these different projects, all dragging on, going wrong. Probably there's not one that's going right. Bedworth Cricket Club, we had that sprung on us at the last full council. £120,000 project, now a £400,000 project being done in a rush. We just have a list, pages and pages of really interesting projects, all of which are either stalled, going wrong, going over budget. We need to get a handle on this, and it is good having a strategy because we can start to say this is what's going on. But we need to do proper management. We need to have proper business cases. We need to discuss properly before we do anything. The depot move never went to a scrutiny panel. We're doing things in a rush and without proper planning. And we're burning loads and loads of money. And each project then causes more problems. Go back to the climbing wall. That needs somewhere for it to be parked. That needs a vehicle.
Thank you, Councillor. Are we going to, just a minute, there may be questions to you. I've got one for a start. Are you aware that I took a single-member decision at 4 o'clock this afternoon in relation to sale of properties in Queen's Road, a meeting to which you were invited?
No, I've been at the local inquiry in Coventry.
No, the question was, are you aware that I took a single-member decision at 4 o'clock, a meeting to which all councillors were able to attend?
We need to be
Okay, thank you.
things.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Mrs. Condell.
I don't think I've got anything to add, thank you.
Thank you. Do we want to, anyone want to speak on the agenda? Well, could I just say first of all that for everybody's information there are ongoing discussions with possible purchasers in relation to the building next door. I am not at liberty for legal reasons to discuss these at the moment because obviously they are subject to legal agreements, but there is likely to be very good news on that very soon. Similarly, in relation to many of the other things, in relation to the depot, it is not all one way because in fact the value of land that we are looking to be able to sell in the old depot has dramatically increased also, so that the for what is one negative on one side is positive on the other. The amount, this council has been in fact very, very stringent in terms of looking at our assets, and we have not done as many other councils have done and sold off the silver immediately just to balance the books, a situation which many councils are now thinking of because they took the wrong decision in relation to new homes bonus and are looking now at, I use their words, falling off a financial cliff. We actually listened to the advice of our officers very carefully and are not in that situation. So in terms of capital and our assets, we are in fact in a relatively good situation compared with many other authorities of this size. And again, if you look at authorities of this size, a population of 126,000, and our capital assets are in quite a healthy position. One thing we have in fact done in terms of asset management is move most of our office employees that were on 3 sites here into one, into this building. And we are able, it's because of the good sense in terms of putting the new council house for sale, that we've been able to move everybody in here, get rid of Riverside building and open that for town centre parking. And of course it's a very popular car park, so extremely difficult to find a space in that car park at any time during the week. So there's been some very good asset management, and I do thank the Cabinet member and the officers working with him in being able to put forward this plan. Councillor Arlington.
Chair, can I just ask a question of you?
Of me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Vicarage Street was a joint venture between ourselves and the County Council.
Yes.
Did we pull out of that, Chair?
No.
Can you tell me who did?
At the moment, there are still things in the pipeline, and there is no pulling out in that sense.
We have
But in
not
fact-
scrapped that.
Our only holding on Vicarage Street, and Alan will correct me if I'm wrong, is where the old Labour Exchange used to stand, which we took the opportunity to buy, advised by our officers, which stands at the top of where Wheat Street is cut into.
So compared to
For those who are old enough, it's where people used to park the car up there when they went to the old Sainsbury's. I think it's before you were born, Councillor. Yeah.
So compared to the County Council, our actual area was fairly small in Vicarage Street.
No, we actually own more than half the land, but not actually adjutting Vicarage Street, because we own land across here, where we have the shops opposite the library, and so on. We actually own 51% of the total.
Because it was mentioned, I just...
Yeah, it's a joint project, and that is still being. In fact, Councillor Jackson and the managing director went to a meeting in London in relation to that line very recently. Any other member on this section in agreement with the recommendations then? Very good.